So I watched Mathew Steele's video, The Worst Moral Evil, My Conclusion. And for those of you who aren't aware, a week or so ago he'd asked that question to secularists. What's the worst moral act that you could do? And several of us responded via video response and several via text comments. Subsequent to that, the Bible Thumping Wingnut made a video in which he observed that pretty much to a man, we had all moved the agency from ourselves to another entity. That we did not answer the question, what is the worst moral evil that I could do? But rather we imagined the worst moral evil possible and attributed that to another entity. And the Bible Thumping Wingnut posed the question, why did you do that? Now, unfortunately, instead of remaining open to the answer, he decided to attribute and impose some intent and motives to us, namely that this was some sort of a subconscious admission of an innate knowledge that God exists. And unfortunately, this answer does not resonate with me. The short answer is no. And it's actually not even consistent with the images that we constructed. Because, of course, what we really did, whether consciously or subconsciously, was to paint a picture of the Christian hell. And so if this was some sort of an admission of the innate knowledge that God exists and that he is perfectly just and all these good attributes, we are also saying that he's a moral monster, that he has committed the worst possible moral act. So I don't think that's really consistent with our answers. I gave the answer that, in my case, it was haste. I simply didn't listen to the question carefully enough, which actually is true. But in light of what Mathew Steele said in his conclusion video, I think I understand it better now. And I'm normally a pretty perceptive guy, but I definitely missed the boat in this case. When I made my haste response to Bible Thumping Wingnut, he posed the further question, why is it then that you didn't go ahead and actually answer the question as asked? Why didn't you make another video and actually answer the question? Mathew Steele said in his video that we had somewhat involuntarily moved that agency off-site because we were ultimately uncomfortable with imagining the worst moral evil that we could personally do. And that rang true with me immediately. So, you know, I'm a guy, right? So I ride motorcycle and I work on cars and I watch car racing and all that good stuff, but I'm actually quite a soft dude. I don't like to see people suffer. The thought of human suffering really wrenches at me inside. I can't watch animal rescue shows and these veterinarian shows. It kills me inside to see animals suffering. So to imagine the worst moral evil that I could do is damn near impossible. And that's the acid test, is to say, okay, let me answer the question. And I can't do it. I mean, obviously, first you'd have to separate it out. What is the worst moral evil that I could physically accomplish with the resources available to me, which is unimaginable to me. But even to try to imagine the worst moral evil that I could stomach, that I could actually pull off, given my level of empathy, is extremely difficult. And I think it's encouraging to note that that's the moral landscape, at least among the people, of course, that answered the question. And I think, as misguided as our answers may have been, the responses that were given to Mathew Steele's question were far more informative than if we had actually answered the question as asked. Mathew Steele had apologized for not making the question more clear. Au contraire, I think no apologies are necessary, because I think the answers that were given in this little thought experiment bear a lot more fruit than if we had answered the question as asked. So I think it's very encouraging, and I do think it's telling. And I think it's telling of a level of empathy that is consistent, obviously, with a high moral standard and a consistent, cohesive society. Probably our upbringings, I'm guessing. I think, you know, empathy is definitely something that's learned, and I think it's learned early. And so I'm encouraged to see that level of empathy exists, at least within the community that Mathew Steele was posing the question to. I'll close by saying this. He also made another conclusion towards the end of his video, and I don't want to spoil that. I think you owe it to yourself to go and listen to his video. I'll link it below. It's much more short and concise than this video, so it'll be easier to listen to. I would be interested to know your comments and feedback on the conclusions made in this video, but also on the conclusion that he made at the end of his video, because I think that's very thought-provoking as well. Thanks as always for watching.